Hello and welcome to Glitch Cube. We're a gaming podcast, and each week we take a deeper look into the art of video games. As always, I'm Christian.
I'm Chris.
And thank you so much for joining us again this week. We are continuing our little mini-series, actually putting a final seal on it. This is the last episode in our little mini-series of interpreting the elements. And today's element, I'm sure you could probably guess it if you looked at the titles of the other ones or listened to the episodes from previous weeks. We are going into the element of fire. Ooh, fire.
Ooh.
Fire has become a instrumental part of storytelling, whether it is in folklore, in mythology, or in evolution even, right? And we all, I'm not going to generalize by saying we all know this story, but I'm sure a lot of people who are familiar with Greek mythology know the story of Prometheus bringing flame to humans, which, sparked their interest in knowledge and sparked civilization as we know it, which is really interesting because if you look at the side of scientists, whenever they talk about evolution, they say that fire is what expedited evolution in human beings because we were able to then cook our meat and it actually helped with mental growth, which is really interesting to think about. They called it the cultural renaissance during the evolution age, and apparently that is when art and the written language was created, was whenever people were starting to cook their meat more, which I think is really interesting. And kind of a cool little tidbit there for you guys. But fire has been used in very interesting ways, whether it's literal when it comes to certain firefighting games or things like that, or more philosophical and more of it as a thematic tool, like some of the games that we'll be discussing later on in the episode. But I think before we dive into some of our more heavy-hitting games, we should do some honorable mentions for the smaller games, right? A lot of these little titles that just use fire for, let's say, the fun of it, right? Or for using fire in an interesting way. We talked about it in our wind episode, but I would say that Breath of the Wild uses fire in a really cool way in conjecture with wind, where you're able to control the path of fire and see where it goes, which I think is still really, really cool. I absolutely love that effect in games. But is there any other little games out there that might use fire in a cheeky or interesting way that have caught your eye?
I keep thinking about it's more so how fire has kind of evolved in games to where it the spread of it is more realistic, right. I think there was a game that just came out recently that has a really interesting way of fire spread, Teardown. I don't know if you've heard about this game, but it just came out, and basically you're tasked with tearing down buildings, right? And it's on voxels, but the graphics look pretty good.
Oh yeah, that's a fun game.
It's to me, it's revolutionary because you can destroy everything.
Yeah.
But the fire in that is just whoa, it's cool, dude. I really want to actually dive into this game and see what they've done with destruction, because I love destroying shit in games, and it always bothers me that you can shoot a rocket at a building and it just does nothing.
Right.
Seeing that you can actually destroy stuff looks cool. But I think just the evolution of fire physics, I guess you could call it, is just phenomenal.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of games have really gotten the fire spread down because fire cannot be easily contained, right? And actually, talking about fire spreading, just thought about this in last week's program for our Minecraft Club. I actually recreated the game Lava Wall, which I thought was so much fun. And for those of you who are not familiar with Lava Wall, it's a little mini game in Minecraft that we were playing. And you literally have a wall of lava in front of you. And you pair up in teams, and you have to place down 3 pieces of wool in a tower somewhere on your side of the map. Now, you cannot see the opponent side of the map, so think Battleship. It's really cool. That each team has a little bit of time to set up some defenses by planting trees, using bone meal to grow the trees faster. They can break down the trees for planks to use as more reinforced wood, because if fire catches the leaves themselves, then it spreads very quickly. Now, the best part about it is that each team is given a set of bows and arrows, and if you fire an arrow through lava, it catches on fire, and wherever it lands, it catches that thing on fire too. So that was actually a really fun game to play with all the kids. Like, they were going crazy. It was chaos, but it was a lot of fun to see that spread. And there was a few moments there that I just couldn't help but like break up laughing, because like one of the kids kept getting caught on fire and kept running back to his team's wool for protection behind the wall. And there was like 2 or 3 times that he legitimately like lost the game for his team because he was on fire.
Oh my God.
It's super, super funny. But like the spreading aspect of that was really cool because it's kind of randomized in Minecraft. It's not a perfect spread, right? Sometimes fire jumps and sometimes it doesn't. So the kids really had to act fast when the fire was starting to get like out of control. So that made the game that much more interesting. And just seeing a bunch of like 6 to 12-year-olds trying to work together while everything's just catching on fire around them is pretty funny. So that was great.
That's cool. I never heard of like that kind of like way of playing.
Yeah, I actually shout out to Achievement Hunter from Rooster Teeth. That was where I saw the idea for Lava Wall, and I thought it would be fantastic for the kids. It's a super short, simple game to set up and to play. Like our Minecraft club is only about an hour to an hour and a half on Fridays. So trying to find a bunch of mini games for that, but it was just really cool to be able to recreate that in our world. So it's been a lot of fun.
Huh. Another honorable mention for spread, because it's interesting, and I know a lot of people out there are going to groan about this, but Fortnite, I mean...
sorry, I had to because you said it.
Yo, like, I'm all about that no-build version. Like, it's... I really enjoy it, and I feel like I'm actually gotten pretty competent at it, too, which is... nice. It makes me feel good. You know, I'm not playing bots anymore. Like, it's people, but like sometimes these people are just terrible or they're really good. But the fire, like, so you're Molotovs and it's like fireflies in a jar or whatever. And these things, like, if you throw it at a building, it'll just burn the whole building. Or if you throw it like kind of like on a hill or anywhere, it's got such a huge spread that I thought I was safe one time by throwing it in this building because the circle was so close. And then it crept up like outside of that and hit the bush that I was hiding in, and I was burning. And I'm like, this is so weird. Like,
that's funny.
You play Warzone, you do any like other like Battle Royale or anything. Molotovs don't really have a crazy spread. You know, it's just like a common like circle and that's it. But in Fortnite, it's like, oh, we're just going to throw fire here and here and here and here. And it's like just spreads. And I'm like, it's really cool because it feels really real. But at the same time, it's so aggravating because it's like you can't really judge where the fire is going to be because it just keeps spreading. But yeah, that was something that really shocked me when I noticed it the other day.
That's pretty funny. I like that a lot, actually. Yeah, it is interesting to think about, but like in most games, when you drop like a flame grenade or a Molotov cocktail, like it's just a circle radius and then it goes out after a while, right?
Yep.
So it's pretty cool to see a game that's actually playing on the idea of spreading. Maybe it's, you know, extreme spreading, but it's still something interesting there to like. It's pretty fun. All right. So I think it might be that time to kind of start diving into some of our heavy-hitting games, the ones that really stood out to us when it comes to gameplay and an interesting use of fire in a thematic way. The first game that I want to talk about is Firewatch. Firewatch, I love Firewatch. Firewatch is such a great adventure game. Before we get into the plot, like I just really enjoyed the story. I did not expect it at all. Like now I'm sure a lot of people who have not even played the game know what it's about, know that there's a little bit of a mystery behind it. But when I first played it, I went in with no like idea of what I'm going to be walking into. I just thought it was a gorgeous game. And it like I remember when this game first came out, without playing it, without owning it, I had Firewatch as like my desktop wallpaper for a long time just because the artwork was gorgeous. It's just so pretty to look at. And I mean, to this day, I think it's one of my favorite games as far as aesthetics goes. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I didn't play it when it came out. I played it, I think, maybe a year or two after. And everyone was always praising it and all this. And at the time, I wasn't really into like, walking games or games like that because I was afraid it was going to be puzzle heavy, like The Witness or something like that. And I was like, I don't know if I really want to deal with that right now. But I kept seeing how beautiful it was. And my desktop wallpaper was probably Firewatch for like 4 years. Like it was that structure, in the mountains,
tower.
the tower, but it was like a vaporwave kind of color. So it was like purple and pink, like very like calming.
Right.
And then I was like, man, this game's actually kind of cool. Like it's different. It doesn't overstay its welcome. Like it's got the build up. It hits you with the feels. And then you're just like, oh my God, this was good. Like it was a great self-contained story that's not too long, but not too short. Like I was really surprised by it.
Yeah. It's just a fantastic title. And like you, I waited about a year or two before actually playing it, and I just really appreciated the artwork behind it from afar. Right. And it's funny, like while I was going to school for game design specifically, like I was finding ways to emulate or like mimic the scenery that I was seeing in Firewatch without even playing this game. And I didn't realize how much of an impact this game was going to make on me as far as really, really appreciating storytelling in games. And I feel like this is around the time, like I played this game at the perfect time for me because it really like, I guess like solidified my idea that games can be so much more. This is one of those titles that really showed me that it's not just all about run and jump or run and shoot, hack and slash. It's so much like games can really give you an impactful feeling and I guess like explain emotional dilemmas in a very interesting way that you can become fully immersed in it and learn about dilemmas from a safe point, right? Or like a safe place because you're in your home, but you can experience these things, right? And yeah, Firewatch is fantastic for that. So the plot behind it, spoilers, I guess, for a game that came out in 2016. Sorry, I don't know. But the plot of it is it's set in the spring of 1989, which I thought was great too when I saw that because year I was born. Hey. So after his wife develops early onset dementia, dude, those stories hit me like the movie Up. Like I was so heartbroken whenever I was like when they were going through his background, his history. But it follows Henry. Henry is the lead forest ranger at the time at the the Shoshone National Forest in Wyoming. And his job is to look for fires and call them out. Like that is a legit fire or position in national parks because fires are very dangerous in certain areas. We know that all too well out here in California. But on his first day while he's out there, he gets radioed in by a lady named Delilah, who is in a lookout or on lookout in another tower as well. And so throughout the entire game, you're communicating with Delilah through walkie-talkies, and you're actually like unfolding a little bit about you. Like I really like this idea because while Henry is trying to escape his messed up life, like his broken home of, basically losing his wife for her not remembering who he is and just really, really tough times, he still has a like goofy mentality, right? Like you can totally tell that is his armor right there. And I totally like relate to that 100%. Like I could be feeling like crap on the inside, but when I'm like facing people or, out there in the public, I I cover it with humor. I cover it with just being like appearing to be lighthearted when on the inside I'm hurting like horribly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like the people who really know me, like they catch on to that. But like for everyone else, like I feel like I could put on a pretty good mask to hide some of those issues. I don't know. I worked with you. I don't know how well I hit it. I'm sure there was times when I would look like hell, but
I think you hit it pretty well.
Thanks, man. But like, it really made me relate to Henry in this game, and I don't know how you felt about the main character, but like I instantly fell in love with him. I thought he was fantastic.
I did too. I mean, that's kind of what sucked me into that game, honestly, because I was like, oh wow, this is, like you said, it was different than other games. I wasn't going in expecting that deep of a story or deep of like character development. I'm like, oh wow, like I played it during a time where I was actually pretty depressed.
Mm-hmm.
So the game really means a lot to me.
Yeah, it was great. So while Henry's out there in the woods, like he starts to kind of unravel a little bit of a mystery. He ends up finding an old backpack with a disposable camera that belonged to a boy named Brian Goodwin, who apparently was the son of Ned, who was a former lookout out there in Wyoming as well. And Ned, unfortunately, drank heavily due to his experiences in the Vietnam War. And I guess his son decided to kind of escape from that style of his world or that traumatic event through fantasy novels and role playing games, which I can 100% relate to that as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you need some sort of escapism, and it all kind of starts to unravel from there. And Henry ends up finding out what happened to Ned and Brian, and it's not a happy ending, unfortunately, but it was, the journey to find this. Every minute I was just so sucked into this title and I wanted to know more and just find out what's going on or like know who Delilah was, right? Like the entire time I was like, oh man, Delilah's not real. Like this is just a drunken stupor, like I was like going full 100% conspiracy theory on this game. And all the while, like how relating this back to the main topic for the episode today, but like the title obviously is called Firewatch, right? And like this game doesn't use fire in a literal sense; it uses it in the more like philosophical idea of the impending doom that can linger or that's lingering at every moment and can spark up at any time, right? Like, hence the need for the position of Firewatch. And Henry is reliving that. He's reliving that whole situation because he is the man. He's a man on the edge, right? He's on the edge of a mental breakdown the entire time, like dealing with everything from home and trying to escape from it to find some sort of solace and peace. But really, like, he's like, just one step away from having a complete mental breakdown and just losing it. And I can't blame the man. Like, this game made me really believe that Henry was a real man, right? Like, I could totally see this being a real life experience that someone went through and gamified it, which I think is fantastic. And it just, everything about that I just absolutely love. Bah, beautiful.
Yeah, I pulled up my Steam page and I found my old screenshots I took in that game, and I'm like, God, it's beautiful. And it's like, some of these are like during a certain part of the game when it starts like, the fire becomes more of like a more scary thought.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, the game has a lot of feels. I don't know. I think it's one of those games that's like a must play, no matter like what you're into.
Yeah, it's definitely a wonderful experience to just go through. Like I mentioned earlier, this is definitely one of the titles that really shows off what a game can be. And we kind of touched on that idea in the last episode about, art games and kind of like pushing the boundaries a little bit. But I feel like Firewatch really did it well. They found that perfect balance between storytelling and gameplay where you are engaged just enough to want to keep going and just keep exploring, but the story never feels forced on you, right? It never feels like you're put into too many like scripted scenes, which is really cool. And I think one of the genius things as far as like gameplay mechanics go that Firewatch did is the idea that while you're talking to Delilah over the radio, you're still walking. Like you can still get from point A to point B, and you're just having a conversation with them as you're hiking through the woods, as a normal human would do, right? If this was a game from, early 2000s, every time that walkie would go off, guess what? Your player is not moving, right? Like I remember those games where every time they want to give you some sort of story or lore, like you're stuck waiting for the story to finish. And I feel like that style is dead now. And it just really slows down gameplay to a crawl where players aren't interested in the story anymore. So I think giving the player the ability to be active, and while they're actively doing something, the story just kind of soaks in a little deeper, right? Like you're able to fully like appreciate everything that's being told to you because it's never impeding progress. Which I think is a very brilliant idea that luckily a lot of games have, taken that to heart and have been using that more often.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring this up because something I was thinking about the other day is that, a lot of games now, like if you pick up like a log, like it, or, a part with a conversation, it continues when you walk, some games have it where it's like, oh, if it's codex, you pick up, you play it, but then as soon as you start walking away from it, it starts to vanish.
Right.
And then you come back and it plays again. And it's like, I hate that. Like, I like when it's like an audio file that I can just play while my character's running. And because, it's annoying having to stand there, listen to a conversation, impeding your progress. And the other thing, like, the Fallout, I love Fallout so much, or any of those kind of games, but like having to dig through the lore, like in your inventory, is another thing that I'm just like, I don't know if I want to spend all the time doing that. Like I did that with Dark Souls, and it was really rewarding, but that's because like you need to do that for Dark Souls for the story, is you need to go there and like look through your inventory to kind of understand certain things. But like when it's stuff like Fallout, I'm like, God damn it. Like I don't want to dig through all these logs that are in my inventory. And it's like, I don't know. But I mean, that's another topic.
Yeah.
Lore dumps.
It's tough. It's a really tough balance. And like you mentioned, like Dark Souls is the complete opposite, right? Of the storytelling. There is no story unless you absolutely want it. Then you have to dig for it, right? And then you have your games like the Fallout games where there's the story and you got to wait for it. And then there's the ones that kind of figured out, hey, maybe both those games aren't doing it right. Let's find a happy medium where you can keep going, but the story will be played for you. And I think like you listen better when you're doing something. I know I do. Like gamers are multitaskers, So like you need to give them something to do while they're absorbing information. And it's a brilliant way of doing it. It's like any tutorial level, Like you need to give them text and give them information, but give them something to do while you're doing it. And then it soaks in better. All right. Well, I think it is time for our other big hitting game. Do you want to take it away?
Yeah. So after ending that conversation with Dark Souls, I mean, it's pretty fitting to talk about fire since, bonfires, Age of Fire. The game is just kind of run around it. And to an extent, Elden Ring is too, but it's a little different. Going back to the story, I was one of those kids that was like, man, Dark Souls doesn't have a story. Like, there's nothing deep behind it. It's just, it's just dark and gloomy, and there's like little bits in there, but
hard for no reason.
Yeah. And after beating, Dark Souls Remastered, playing through 2 and beating Elden Ring and stuff, I was like, there's a common theme in Dark Souls, and it's really interesting. And I started like kind of researching it more because, like I said, I've only played the first one and started the second, so I can't really describe 3 or 2 all that much. But when I dove into it, I'm like, oh my God, like it's so interesting, because going back to like how you were talking about Prometheus, right? Giving fire to advance a civilization, right?
Mm-hmm.
Be able to cook the food to make our brains smarter or better.
Mm-hmm.
It's making people, I don't say dependent on it, right? But think about it. We're dependent on light. Any developed area you go in the country, developed places have light, and places that are dark aren't developed at all.
Mm-hmm.
They're fields, they're forest, or they're just, it's primitive. With Dark Souls, it's kind of the same way. It's before the gods created the Age of Fire. Everyone was like a hollow husk, or I guess you could call like a zombie kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're not really real. They look like they're dead. And once fire was invented, things changed. And to me, I really related this to our own history with the cavemen and the apes. Primitive, but once they discovered fire, the world changed, right? Fire becomes a sense of power, becomes a tool to not just control, but to advance our lives in many different ways. And the thing with Dark Souls is that the Age of Fire basically renews, keeps that civilization going. In Dark Souls, it's basically the fire is what created nobility. It takes this hollowed husk of a world and creates life. There was in the beginning cutscene of Dark Souls, it shows the husk aimlessly walking in this dark void. And once the Age of Fire started, you see this huge city. And it's trying to show that, look, like with fire, civilization happens, right? Everyone, I don't want to say everyone gets smart, but with fire, you get order. And with order, you get laws, societal expectations, and just everything that kind of comes into what we expect in the real world. Like it's stuff that just comes second nature. But with Dark Souls, there's always two sides. There's the fire and there's the dark. That's why there's like the dark side. But the dark is devoid.
The dark side.
Join the dark side. It's devoid of the refinement of fire. So it lacks everything. That's why, I don't want to spoil Dark Souls because I was actually really interested in the ending of it, but it's really fascinating how fire seems to help civilization, but at the same time also kind of creates a burden for them. And I know in the first game, that's kind of what you're supposed to do. You have two options. You can create the Age of Fire again and continue the same thing that everyone's used to, or you can say screw it and do something else. And basically, you're the person there that has that power to create fire again. Versus, from what I read in Dark Souls 3, it's the world after the fire has gone out. And you're trying to create that hope of maybe something similar can do it, or that you can save people from it. And I think that's just a really interesting idea, because we never really think about, if fire, light, anything like that in our world was just taken away from us. Like, how would we advance? Because we're so reliant on energy and everything. Because I count fire as energy too.
Oh yeah.
So it's
100%.
like, what would happen it'd be post-apocalyptic for sure when you think about it, but it's just like, it's a pretty weird or dark subject that I feel like a lot of people don't really think about when they put it into like a modern setting, like where we're at now, and another thing I found interesting with the Prometheus and Dark Souls is that it kind of takes the old Greek mythology, and other regions have this kind of too, where, there's young successors to the old gods, right? The old gods of the past have all this knowledge and power, but these young gods that are taking the place are taking the best of the past and trying to forge something new with it. The term linking the fire in Dark Souls just makes me think about taking that past knowledge and bringing it to the future. And I mean, putting it into terms like in our world, it's like, bringing fire, something so easy and primitive, and turning it into a mega city, right? Like New York City, or creating,
or just knowledge, right?
Yeah, just knowledge. Like, it's interesting how fire is really actually linked to a lot of advancements in this world.
Yeah. I mean, without it, like you said, we would not be where we are today. Like, we would not be able to burn coal, which, gave us a form of energy that led us to different paths of energy. Like, without fire and without heat, right? Without light, we do not have a civilization. It's just not possible. And it's so funny. Like, I've played the Dark Souls games. I didn't dive into the lore like that, but that really does make me appreciate those games that much more. That there is that level of a lore behind something that does not shove it in your face at all. Like, you can play that entire game, the entire series, without knowing a single thing about that, or really interpreting anything, and just playing it and still having a good time enjoying it, right? If you're into those kind of games, of course. But I really, really enjoy that. And I really like the idea of there being two sides of the coin, right? Of course, there's the fire side, and then there's the dark side. So there's the light, the dark, And it made me think about, a campfire. When you're sitting around a campfire, it is eerily dark outside of the fire's light. Like, it really feels like it absorbs all of that darkness and enhances it, right? Which is really interesting to think about, where, like, okay, the fire has brought us knowledge. It has brought us our cities, our lineages, that brought about nobles and everything like that, right? Brought about nobles by whoever is able to harness that energy to gain wealth. Then, obviously they became kings and queens and all that stuff. But on the flip side, with people getting that much power, you have such a division of power that, like, the dark side of it, or like the poor, or just the non-wealthy, became more, I guess, more obvious, or just more of like a stark difference between the two, So it's very interesting that with this knowledge that was given to us, with fire giving us this ability to evolve, it actually bred in a lot of insanely stark differences in society itself as well. So, like you said, when you see a high functioning society, you see light, and whenever you see something more primitive, it's just pure darkness, right? And it stands out to us more now because we are so familiar, so familiar and like comfortable living in this light that we have. But yeah, it just makes it stick out more whenever an area is dark or not as advanced, right? So it's very interesting. I really like that a lot, and it makes me want to just read up lore on Dark Souls more.
Dude, there's so many good videos out there. It's insane. Yes. And I honestly have created that as like my background noise when I'm doing stuff. It's like, I don't know. It's just beautiful, like what the community has like gone into with it.
I could totally see like a Dark Souls movie or Netflix spinoff.
Oh, gone. That'd be kind of cool though.
I'd watch that in a heartbeat. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Actually, that would be a really cool movie too. That you brought up the idea of like a world that loses light. Like, can you imagine just tomorrow, like all light is gone, light doesn't exist
all
anymore.
Energy is done.
Yeah. And then now
Scary.
what? You know, that would be really scary. Because even in like post-apocalyptic worlds, they have some sort of power, right? Like there's something there. There's still light, but can you imagine if like all light, including the sun, just went out tomorrow? Like we had no energy whatsoever. That means no crops, no nothing. Like no way of communicating, no way of knowing how to get around, right? Like it's just dark. And that fear of the unknown would just be so astronomically high because you don't know what's 20 feet in front of you anymore, right? Like I remember the blackout in San Diego.
Fire,
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, remember? Like that was eerie. Like was it like 10 years ago now? But I
wasn't here for that.
Oh, really? Oh, man, dude, that was a trip. That was insane. Because instantly, so like, for those of you who don't know who are not in San Diego, there was a huge blackout at one point in time where like everything shut down for a couple of days.
I remember this.
Like it was
like hearing about it.
Super creepy. And so like I remember trying to drive home from downtown. Obviously, was a nightmare because I was working in downtown at the time. So everything got bogged down. It took me like 3 hours to get home when it was only supposed to be like a 10-minute drive. It was ridiculous.
Jeez.
Completely gridlocked everywhere. By the time I got home, like as I'm driving next to places, and granted, this was not like a rural area. We were still like in town. For those of you around here, like we were in like the kind of Golden Hill area, North Park-ish, right? And like as I'm walking around, I see a lot of people outside, which is interesting, right? A lot of neighbors conversating with each other, which I thought was cool. And then I saw some people with like a machete and like crap like that. I'm like, what are you doing with that?
What the fuck?
I was like, it's been like 4 hours. Like, what are you doing with that? And so I remember our family went down to the liquor store that wasn't too far away just to try and buy some ice. And at that point, the guy at the liquor store was charging $30 for a bag of ice. Like instantly. Jesus. It was only 4 hours into the blackout, but we all heard like through radio and all that stuff that this blackout could last, a week. So people were freaking out, and it was intense. It got a little creepy there for a second. And I just remember sitting at night, like we started a fire in the backyard so that we can, have some sort of light. It gave us some sort of comfort. But like there was the idea of like, man, like all it takes is one person to kind of lose their shit. And like it's over, like someone's gonna do something really dumb right now. So that
I do remember this.
Like it was a lot.
It did hit Orange County because I was in Orange County at the time. For anyone interested, it's called the 2011 Southwest Blackout.
Yeah.
And I do remember this. It's just that point in my life in 2011 was kind of a blur. A lot was going on, but I do remember like. It was just really weird that like the power was out. But I remember like just taking my flashlight and like driving like places. And like you said, it was just creepy.
Yeah.
A little bit on the other end of it, when I was living in Orange County again, there was a really big fire near us. To the point where literally school was canceled. I remember, we left school. Because the air was so bad, right? Like you could see the white like cinder and stuff floating in the sky everywhere.
Oh, wow.
And I remember walking out of my class and like the sky was orange. Like
so creepy.
Imagine having like an orange paper taped on your eyes and everything has that orange filter. Like not sepia, but like actual like
orange.
Dark orange, like Mars. It was the freakiest thing because as soon as you're walking, it's just a huge hit of burnt wood or, fire. And then you have everything orange around you. It was freaky. Mm-hmm. And it was orange for maybe, I think, like 2 days.
Wow.
And then it started to finally go away. But like at night, it was just really eerie because like even though the color was gone, you could still tell something was off. And it was just, I don't know, you could see the fire on the mountains like it's not like it was close to me. Like, it was definitely a bunch of miles away, but it was close enough to really like screw everything up in that area. But yeah, I think that was like 2007, 2008. It was more during one of the times there was like a big like fire in Southern California.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I mean, too much fire is good or also bad, right? And too little fire is terrifying. So it's very interesting finding that nice little balance there. But yeah. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for us this week on our little conversation of the interpretation of elements, of talking about fire. And actually, this is the closing chapter, like I mentioned before, of this little mini-series here. We hope you've actually really enjoyed this dive into the elements. It was a very interesting topic for us. And not gonna lie, it was a very challenging topic for us because it's something that we both noticed wasn't really discussed a lot in the world of gaming. And it was really interesting to kind of get a little bit more abstract with our thoughts and to find some of these titles that, were a little different whenever it came to using the elements in thematic ways. But we definitely will be bringing you some more interesting little mini-series along the way. And we will talk to you all next week with another wonderful batch of games and ideas and who knows what. But it's going to be fun regardless of the fact. But thank you guys again for listening. Hope you all enjoyed, and we will talk to you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.